On January 7th, 2018, a somewhat unusual and interesting sign will appear in the heavens. Interesting because it was mentioned in a 1969 hit song called Age of Aquarius. The opening line of the song says, "When the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets and love will steer the stars." This is the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. The song is referring to axial precession, the wobbling of the Earth's axis like a spinning top. The wobble is very slow, making a full rotation approximately every 26,000 years. This precession of the axis was recognized in ancient times as the precession of the equinox. Although they may not have understood why it occurred, ancient astronomers recognized that the sun appeared to rise in front of a different constellation on the spring equinox every 2,000 years approximately. The ancient Babylonians divided the heavens into 12 sections that were associated with specific constellations that surrounded the ecliptic plane of our solar system. These constellations were called houses because the sun, moon, and planets appeared to move through them throughout the year. The first house was the constellation that housed the sun at the beginning of the ancient year on the spring equinox. At the start of our current civilization, that was the constellation Taurus, which is probably why the Pleiades star system in the constellation Taurus is the first star system listed in those ancient records. You may notice here that the first 5 star systems or constellations correspond to the ecliptic region occupied by Taurus, and the 15th, 16th, and 17th constellations here correspond to Pisces. So these original 18 ancient constellations occupied 12 constellation regions around the ecliptic. So at the beginning of our current civilization, the sun appeared to rise in front of the constellation Taurus on the spring equinox in 4500 BC. And that is what many would call the Age of Taurus, and it lasted approximately 2,000 years. Then around 2000 BC, the sun was rising in front of the constellation Aries on the spring equinox, and that was the Age of Aries, which also lasted about 2,000 years. Then around 2,000 years ago, what we would call 1 CE or 1 BC, the sun was rising in front of the constellation Pisces, and that is about when the Age of Pisces began. These are not exact years, only approximations. There's much debate over when the Age of Pisces began and when it ends. It depends on what astronomy software you use and how you prefer to separate the ages. If you prefer to separate the ages according to the corresponding constellations and their modern lines, then the Age of Pisces will not end until around 2500 CE. The Age of Aquarius comes after the Age of Pisces, so if the Age of Pisces does not end until 2500 CE, then the Age of Aquarius will not start until around 2500 CE. However, many argue that precession lasts not for 26,000 years, but 24,000 years. The documentary The Great Year explains what this theory is based on. So the argument some present is that since there are 12 ecliptic constellations, and precession lasts for approximately 24,000 years, that means each of the 12 constellations will house the equinox sun for 2,000 years maximum, and that would mean the Age of Pisces was due to end around 2000 CE, and that would also have represented the start of the Age of Aquarius. It all depends on where the borders of Pisces and Aquarius are determined to be. But the point for this video is that the 1969 song was most definitely taking the viewpoint that the Age of Pisces would end around 2000 CE, and that end would dawn a few years earlier around 1969. Most people assume all of this was just a bunch of hippie nonsense, and probably for that reason, no one has apparently bothered to look to see when the moon will be in the 7th house while Jupiter is aligning with Mars. The answer is that this celestial configuration will occur on January 7th, 2018. Contrary to what many are saying, the moon does not enter the 7th house every day. From ancient times, 6,000 years ago, the 7th house has always been the 7th constellation from the spring equinox. In 2017 and 2018, the first house of the sun on the spring equinox is the constellation Pisces. Its second house is the constellation Aries. Its third house is the constellation Taurus. The fourth is Gemini. The fifth is Cancer. The sixth is Leo. And the seventh is the constellation Virgo. Virgo has been the 7th house of the sun since the age of Christ began around 1 CE. This means that the moon is in the 7th house when it passes through the constellation Virgo, and this occurs for about 3 to 4 days each month. However, Jupiter aligns with Mars only about once every 2 to 3 years. The celestial configuration involving the moon passing through Virgo simultaneously with Jupiter aligning with Mars has only occurred twice in the past 50 years. If we only look at the Mars and Jupiter alignments, we can see that the last time Jupiter aligned with Mars was in October 2015. But this alignment, which only lasts for about 5 days, did not happen while the moon was in Virgo. The time before that, Mars and Jupiter aligned from July 20th through the 23rd, 2013. But again, the moon was in Aquarius at that time, nowhere near Virgo. Before that, the alignment occurred in April and May of 2011 when the moon was in Pisces. On the alignment in 2009, the moon was in Scorpius. In 2006, the moon was in Leo. In 2004, the moon was in Pisces. In 2002, the moon was in Aries. In 2000, the moon was in Taurus. And on the January 20th, 1998 alignment between Mars and Jupiter, the moon was in Virgo. So you can see the celestial configuration mentioned in Fifth Dimension Song is not as common as some would have you believe. It occurred 10 years ago on January 20th, 1998. Before that, it occurred on June 16th, 1975, and before that on May 20th, 1964. So this celestial configuration has only occurred twice since the song was released, and January 7th, 2018 will be the 3rd time it has occurred since 1969. After that, on the next alignment between Mars and Jupiter in 2020, the moon will be in Sagittarius. On the alignment in 2022, the moon will be in Pisces. On the lineup in 2024, the moon will be in Scorpius. In 2026, the moon will be in Sagittarius. And in July 2029, the moon will again be in the 7th house of Virgo at the same time Mars will pass Jupiter. However, you may notice that in 2029, while Jupiter, Mars, and the moon are all in the 7th house, Mars and Jupiter don't exactly align at that time. Mars passes Jupiter slightly lower on the ecliptic plane at that time. Nevertheless, the age of Aquarius alignment will occur for the 3rd time in 50 years on January 7th, 2018, and will not come close to occurring again until July 2029. To check all of these alignments for yourself, you can use any astronomy software. Stellarium is a good one, and it's free. So why the band Fifth Dimension put that alignment in their lyrics is unknown. But it is interesting that the alignment occurs during the same window of time that multiple other ancient prophecies are being fulfilled, and also at the height of the public's interest in Jupiter's recent movement through Virgo. For more information about why this time period is significant in ancient prophecy, see the playlist here. Thank you to those who make this work possible. If you like this video, please consider providing support. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk to you next week.